Our top story tonight, one person killed and 7 others injured in a pair of shootings last night in downtown Chicago. The incidents happened shortly after the city's annual tree lighting ceremony, which was attended by Mayor Brandon Johnson. The shooting caught the attention of President Trump. Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene is leaving Congress. This follows President Trump's move to no longer endorse her. Her message on the move. We talked to an expert about the Mexican president's refusal to accept military help from the United States against out-of-control drug cartels. And in college football, a number of ranked teams in action today, all vying for a spot in the playoffs. NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss. And in a fast-paced world, how can we protect our emotional well-being and everyday stress? A clinical psychologist shows us a simple technique to ease anxiety.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Arlene Richards. 2 shootings in downtown Chicago last night after the city's annual tree lighting ceremony. 1 person was killed and 8 others injured in 2 separate incidents. Police say 7 people were shot in the first altercation at around 9:50 p.m. All were minors, ranging from age 13 to 17. 6 of the 7 are currently listed in good condition. The 7th, a 13-year-old, was in fair condition. An hour later, another shooting nearby killed a 14-year-old and seriously wounded an 18-year-old. The shootings happened not long after the tree lighting ceremony, which was attended by Mayor Brandon Johnson. President Trump highlighted the incident on Truth Social this afternoon. He noted that the mayor and governor have refused federal help. Meanwhile, 4 people were injured last night in another shooting at an annual tree lighting event in Concord, North Carolina, 30 miles about northeast of Charlotte. 1 victim has since been released from the hospital, though 3 others are listed in critical condition. Police say the incident was not a random act of violence and was between a pair of suspects who are known to each other. From a sweeping upgrade in U.S.-Saudi relations to a political fight over a controversial video and a joint trip by the first and second ladies. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your White House week in review.
President Trump met on Tuesday with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
We believe in the future of the United States of America. We believe in what you're doing, Mr. President.
The Crown Prince, known as MBS, praised Trump's peace efforts and announced he's boosting Saudi Arabia's $600 billion of investments in the U.S. to $1 trillion.
Saying to me now that the $600 billion will be $1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that.
Trump later designated the Muslim nation a major non-NATO ally.
A stronger and more capable alliance will advance the interests of both countries, and it will serve the highest interest of peace.
And agreed to sell advanced F-35 stealth fighter jets to the Gulf nation. Senator Alyssa Slotkin and other Democrats released a video this week seeming to encourage members of the military to refuse what they termed an illegal order.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
The White House responded sharply, with Trump calling it seditious behavior from traitors.
The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos.
Good afternoon, Camp Lejeune.
First Lady Melania Trump and Second Lady Usha Vance visited Marines in North Carolina. Melania Trump called military families the quiet strength of the nation.
Your love, patience, and courage give our service members the confidence to serve with honor and the comfort of knowing home is always waiting.
We are so grateful to you for carrying on the Marine Corps' proud traditions of duty, honor, and service.
President Trump spoke to McDonald's owners and suppliers at the company's Impact Summit in Washington. calling himself an all-time loyal customer.
I even got Bobby Kennedy to eat a Big Mac, and he told me he loved it.
A new jobs report said the economy added 119,000 jobs in September, exceeding economists' expectations, while unemployment rose to 4.4%. In other economic news, the White House says tax season this year could bring good tidings.
According to a new study from Piper Sandler, which is out this week, tax filers can expect an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year in what could be a record-breaking tax refund season.
Congressman Al Greene called for the impeachment of President Trump on Capitol Hill.
On our watch, we refuse to allow one person to dominate the House, the Senate, and the presidency in the United States of America, not on our watch.
Border Czar Tom Homan said New York City would see expanded immigration enforcement soon, speaking on Fox News.
Sanctuary cities, we're flooding the zone because we know they're releasing public safety threats in the communities every day.
One thing in common, we want this...
Trump met with New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani on Friday, who has repeatedly vowed to defend the Big Apple's sanctuary policies.
These are super coins. Go ahead.
President Trump also met with Israeli hostages that his administration freed. The president personally gave each freed hostage his presidential challenge coin. And the White House shared that GE is shifting production from China to Kentucky, bringing jobs and a huge domestic investment with it, calling it the Trump effect. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said on Friday that she's resigning from Congress next year. This follows President Trump's move to no longer endorse her. Greene posted a video on social media explaining her decision tied to her recent fallout with President Trump over the release of Epstein files. She defended her record in office, saying she fought for America First policy and against Democratic causes like trans advocacy and climate change policy.
With that has brought years of non-stop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander and lies about me that most people could never withstand even for a single day. It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family, but it's been wrong to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for.
President Trump accused Greene of losing her way after he suggested she should not run for senator or governor. He was asked today if he's willing to forgive Greene.
Forgive for what? No, I just disagreed with her philosophy. She started backing perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history, this stupid person named Massey. And I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person.
And a busy week in Congress, from a fast-tracked vote on the Epstein files to repealing Biden-era energy policies and probing China's predatory practices in the critical minerals market. NTD's Melina Weisskopf brings this week's highlights from Capitol Hill.
A near-unanimous vote in both chambers of Congress, forcing the Justice Department to release all Epstein-related files. President Trump quickly signed it into law.
We have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law.
While Republican leaders supported the bill, Speaker Johnson decried the vote as a political show vote.
Democrats are trying to use the Epstein matter as a political weapon to distract from their own party's failures.
As Democrats, we made clear from the very beginning, the survivors and the American people deserve full and complete transparency.
The bill was forced to the floor by a group of 218 Democrats and a small handful of Republicans, including Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Republican-controlled Congress also made a focus this week of repealing several Biden-era energy policies in a bid to lower energy costs.
We saw billions of dollars of energy investment moving to foreign countries because Biden shut down America.
And the entire world is talking about how to phase down our dependence on coal pollution and fossil fuel pollution. We are here in this alternate reality of the Republican majority.
The Trump administration is moving ahead with plans to open federal waters near California, Florida, and Alaska, the largest expansion of offshore oil drilling in decades.
Under Joe Biden, there were more than 70 executive orders and actions that specifically targeted Alaska, preventing us from developing the oil and gas resources of the state and the critical minerals that we're hearing so much about today.
The critical minerals market is dominated by the Chinese regime. House lawmakers this week exposed the predatory practices that make this possible.
That's predatory pricing, as you mentioned. The CCP playbook is clear. Overproduce, underprice below the cost of production, thus attempting to kill its competitors, and then weaponize the monopoly.
In addition to economic dominance, lawmakers warn the CCP seeks ideological dominance. The China Commission this week exposing the regime's attack on religious freedom and why it's a threat to Americans.
I think we should do the following: recognize a genocide against the Falun Gong being done by the Chinese government. They have sought to wipe them out.
Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation discipline practiced around the world. The Falun Info Center reports that the regime is attempting to change public opinion and turn U.S. institutions against Falun Dafa through carrying out nearly 200 violent threats against its adherents, not limited to Chinese diaspora.
95% of Americans would find that offensive. Wait, you got communist Chinese intimidating American citizens?
Ambassador Brownback urges U.S. leaders to treat religious freedom as a national security issue.
We will change China, or China will change the world.
On Friday, House lawmakers voted to denounce the horrors of socialism. 86 Democrats joined all Republicans to support it, with 98 Democrats opposed. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Weitzkup, NTD News.
Today, federal police in Brazil arrested former President Jair Bolsonaro over an alleged plot to escape and avoid a 27-year prison term. The same justice who oversaw the case on Bolsonaro's attempt to keep the presidency in 2022 ordered the preemptive arrest after saying Bolsonaro's ankle monitor was violated around midnight. Bolsonaro's lawyer said in a statement that this did not take place. A report by custody agents released later in the day and reviewed by the Associated Press said Bolsonaro admitted to using a soldering iron to try to open the device. In a court video also seen by the AP, Bolsonaro is heard admitting such an attempt. The footage shows the ankle monitor's cap heavily damaged. 70-year-old Bolsonaro, who's been under house arrest, was ordered to wear the device after being deemed a flight risk. The preemptive arrest of Bolsonaro will be discussed and voted on Monday by the 5-justice Supreme Court panel that both convicted and sentenced him to prison. Coming up, we talk to an expert about the Mexican president's refusal to accept military help from the United States against out-of-control drug cartels. More after this short break. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has rebuffed repeated offers by President Trump to conduct airstrikes on cartels in Mexico to stop drugs from coming across the border. She said, quote, "It's not going to happen." Meanwhile, Mexican mayors and other local officials are frequent cartel targets as Americans are being killed through the flow of fentanyl. Why won't Sheinbaum accept the help? Joining us now is Ammon Blair, a senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He specializes in border security and immigration policy with over 2 decades of experience as a U.S. Border Patrol agent and U.S. Army officer. Ammon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me.
Now, Sheinbaum has refused military help from the U.S. partly because of past internal failures where they deployed troops to combat cartel power, but the result was increased violence. Now, her strategy of improving intelligence gathering and investigatory powers has resulted in the arrest of some of the major cartel leaders, but some experts are saying it hasn't cut the flow of drugs into the U.S. So why isn't her strategy working?
Well, this is a great question. That is because the Mexican cartels are one and the same with the Mexican government at the subnational level all the way to the federal level. Look, we are not dealing with the 1980s or 1990s Colombia, where we're going after with the Colombian government against the Medellin or the Cali cartel. We are now dealing with a situation much like Afghanistan, where the insurgency or the terrorist organizations are one and the same with the federal government.
Now, although Scheinbaum won't allow U.S. forces to go into Mexico, she is willing to share intelligence, and she's turned over some of the arrested cartel members to the U.S. for prosecution. Now, you said they are one and the same, but can this strategy actually work long-term to end the cartel problem?
No, ma'am. They are getting. We are receiving the bottom of the barrel. The Mexican government, of course, they're not going to hand over their officials. When you look, there was a map that was released under the AMLO administration in 2019 that showed that the Mexican cartels at that time controlled 57% of the populated areas of Mexico, with an additional 23% that was contested against the Mexican military. So that left around 19 to 20% of the government controlled by the Mexican government. The rest was completely controlled by the cartels. If you look at the violence from the election cycle in 2024, you'll notice that over 80% of the violence happened at the subnational level. So if you were a mayor or a candidate to be a mayor, that is the most dangerous job right now in Mexico.
Now, one of the other things that she's actually saying is her concern is that she wants to maintain her country's sovereignty. So would carrying out these strikes on cartels, pushing drugs at the border, mean a loss of sovereignty to Mexico?
Ma'am, unfortunately, the president herself, Mexico is a state sponsor of terrorism. If you look at how many countries the Mexican cartels operate in, not just the U.S., but they operate in 65 countries. And if they are tied to the Mexican government, that means Mexico, as well as their proxy fighters, the Mexican cartels, have made incursions into 65 other countries and broken their sovereignty. So we are at a point where we need to look at this as in a diplomatic stance where, look, President Scheinbaum, the Mexican government, you have already encroached into other countries. Either you need to face up the fact that your own officials are part of the cartel themselves, or receive the negative consequences of being a state sponsor of terrorism.
Now, I looked at a poll back in October of this year that said that the president in Mexico had a 70% favorability rate. But your foundation conducted a poll in January that said 78% of Mexican voters believe the security risk posed by cartels are unacceptable. Yet the voters were split on whether the U.S. should intervene. So why are Mexican citizens divided on this issue?
Because they really don't believe that anything's going to happen. Look, Mexico has been ravaged by the Mexican cartels for such a long time. When Mexico was under the one-party rule by the PRI until like the late 80s, early 90s, the federal government kind of had a control over them. But once they started losing that one-party rule, the cartels became an insurgency, and that was already in the 90s. So fast forward to today. It's been decades where the people of Mexico have been under the rule either by a tyrannical government or by foreign terrorist organizations. And so they don't see that their everyday life is going to be impacted at all, even if the U.S. government goes in. They can look at our track history with Afghanistan. Look what happened there. We were there for decades in Afghanistan, only to pull out and lose all that we lost, all that we gained, all the soldiers that died. For what? And so they see our track record in terms of countering an insurgency or terrorist organizations, and they look, oh, maybe it's just better if we just continue to operate as the status quo.
Well, back in the U.S., Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said the U.S. wouldn't unilaterally send troops into Mexico. So do you think he's willing to carry out strikes without the approval from the Mexican president, with Americans dying from fentanyl?
Not at this point. I think that if they use a foreign diplomacy along with getting other international organizations as well as foreign countries to try to force Mexico to do the right thing. Look, if the United States can get all the remaining 60 plus countries together to force Mexico to actually look into this threat problem, I think that would be a better situation. They're going to continue to conduct the operations in the Caribbean. But for the most part, those are Tren de Aragua or Cartel of the Suns. They're not the Mexican cartels. And so I think the most strategic thing that they can do now is, just like what Pete Hegseth said, is probably not bomb or send troops inside, but utilize our intelligence assets and utilize foreign diplomatic pressure.
Well, as you said, if the Mexican government is in with the cartel, it's going to be very difficult for the U.S. and these other countries to help them. Ammon Blair, Senior Fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
European leaders and some U.S. lawmakers are weighing in on President Trump's Ukraine peace plan. The White House is calling the 28-point proposal a pragmatic blueprint aimed at halting the war. In a joint statement today, officials from the UK, France, Germany, and others said the draft includes important elements for a just and lasting peace, calling it a basis which will require additional work. However, a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers said today they share significant concerns about the plan, adding that it offers Putin concession after concession and risks fatally degrading Ukraine's defense. Russian President Vladimir Putin has welcomed the proposal, calling it a potential basis for a final peaceful settlement. Coming up in college football, a number of ranked teams in action today, all vying for a spot in the playoffs. NTD's Dave Martin joins us to discuss when we come back. For your sports news, we're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, it's good to see you as always.
Good to see you, Arlene.
And let's kick it off with college football. A lot going on today with all the games. What's happening so far?
Yeah, we've got a lot of games, a lot of ranked teams in action. Not many playing each other, though. We did have one, though, already. 8th ranked Oklahoma beat number 22 Missouri 17-6 this afternoon. Let's take a look here. Sooners needed a win to stay in the playoff rankings, and they got it. They're now 9-2. Missouri, meanwhile, goes to 7-4 with the loss. Now in the Big Ten, number 1 Ohio State, very little trouble with Rutgers, winning 42-9 there. Buckeyes now 11-0 overall, 8-0 in conference play. And in the ACC, 13th ranked Miami won at Virginia Tech 34-17. Hurricanes now 9-2 on the season as well, but they are 5th in the ACC. Let's look at some more scores here. In the SEC, 13th ranked Texas A&M blew out Stanford 48-0. 4th ranked Georgia beat Charlotte 35-3, and number 10 Alabama beat Eastern Illinois 56-0. So not very competitive games there as expected, but next week each of those 3 SEC powers has a much more difficult rivalry game. All right, going on right now, 15th ranked USC is playing at number 7 Oregon. Ducks are currently up 28-21 in the third quarter there. Then tonight, a couple more games tonight, Arlene. We got
Get exciting.
Yeah, getting very exciting. 7-3 Pitt is at number 16 Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets are in line for the ACC championship game, especially if they can win out. Pitt, meanwhile, would have to win out just to have a chance, but they got Miami next week, so a tough road for them. Then at 8 p.m., 11th ranked BYU is going to be at 7-3 Cincinnati. Now the Cougars are just a half game behind Texas Tech in the Big 12, but the Red Raiders already beat them earlier this season, so a whole lot of moving parts going on in college football right now. In just a couple weeks, though, it gets sorted out. We finally get the playoffs.
Do you find that they play well at 8 p.m. at night? I mean, I'm ready to go to bed by then.
You know, I guess it depends on the players, you know. I mean, I would think, honestly, they would rather do that. You usually get the primetime audience, and I think more fans are there, too, for those night games. It's like a fun thing to do at night, especially for the students. So I don't know, I guess it depends kind of on the team. Plus, if you've traveled there, you would hate to do like an afternoon game if you travel there. I would think you'd want to be there at night. So I don't know, maybe I haven't noticed any difference, but if I was a player, I think I'd like the primetime game.
More exciting, I guess, right?
Yeah, right.
More exciting. All right. So
I'm not a player, though.
Oh, well, that's okay. You're forgiven. Now let's look at the NBA news. Clippers 12-time All-Star Chris Paul hinting at retirement in a social media post.
Yeah, Paul's posted, quote, "Back in North Carolina, what a ride. Still so much left. Grateful for this last one." Now, Paul is from North Carolina. He went to Wake Forest there. Today was his team's only game in North Carolina this season. So the writing seems to be on the wall. And this year in particular, Paul's minutes have really started to decline, just down to 13 per game. Normally he's been a starter for most of his 21-year career. He is 40 years old. Rarely do you see a 40-year-old point guard in the NBA, for good reason. In his prime, though, I mean, he was definitely the best point guard in the league. I mean, he was either named All-NBA first team, second team, and third team 11 times. He's currently second all-time in steals and assists, trailing only the great John Stockton in both categories. Now, he has not still confirmed any retirement plans. Of course, whenever he does, he is definitely a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. I'll definitely miss watching him play, too. I mean, the guy, his passing really created offense, really was an incredible player. He's incredible.
Now, you talk about in his day. Is he still playing well now?
He's only down to 13 minutes a game, so that's like 1/4 of the game. Normally, the guy plays, 2/3 of the game because he's so good. This year, I mean, even last year, as a 39-year-old, he was still playing 28 minutes a game even for the Spurs. This year, it's been cut drastically with the Clippers, so I guess the coach doesn't have the same confidence, maybe.
Well, you want to go out on a high note.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Right.
All right, so let's switch to tennis. Roger Federer was elected to the Hall of Fame this week, but there's an interesting story of how he was notified. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, first of all, of course, Federer getting elected to the Tennis Hall of Fame was obviously a slam dunk. I mean, the guy rewrote the record books. I mean, he broke Pete Sampras' records of number one rank, weeks ranked number one, as well as Grand Slams won. But he was notified about this via a video call with a number of tennis legends. And we just showed you. You see a whole bunch of people there. You had Clem Clijsters, Patrick McEnroe, Chris Everett, Boris Becker, just to name a few. Now, here's what actually Federer said about it afterwards.
I mean, the honor is a really big one for me, being recognized by the International Tennis Hall of Fame. To be inducted, in a little bit under a year now, feels amazing. I'll never forget the words of Pete Sampras when I asked him, how was it, the Hall of Fame? Did you enjoy it? Was it better than you thought it was? And he told me, Roger, you have no idea what's going to hit you. It's so emotional looking back down memory lane, being at the sort of the home of tennis, felt magical. And for me today, the way I got the video call from Kim Clijsters and Patrick McEnroe was beautiful, and then having all the legends talk so nicely about me and shower me with compliments was incredible. At a place that means so much to me, I'm so incredibly grateful to Swiss tennis. Today, the street where we are right now is called Roger Federer Street, and it was also a message and a way to show the kids, if I can do it, you can do it. Because I had no idea at 13, 14, 15, 16 years old that I was going to make it into the Hall of Fame, or that I would win Wimbledon or become world number one. I knew none of those things, and the uncertainty was real. And I think I was able to share that with them, have them take part in something super meaningful to me. Cannot wait to go to Newport, Rhode Island. I've never been there, so looking forward to it, and hopefully see all the legends there, and really happy I can join the club.
So quite an honor for Federer. Such a humble guy, I already do miss watching him, just like Chris Paul.
Yeah, just like that. All right, well, let's go over to the NFL. There's some interesting news there. The playing status of a couple of star quarterbacks is up in the air. Who are they and what's going on?
Yeah, we sort of have some answers right now. Now, Joe Burrow will not be playing tomorrow despite practicing this week. Now, part of that decision, according to head coach Zach Taylor, is that Cincinnati has to play Sunday, then they turn around and play a few days later on Thursday night football, or Thursday football. So that's 2 games in 5 days, so he doesn't really want to chance it. I'm sure the Bengals don't take this lightly, though, because they were 2-0 to start the season with Burrow at quarterback. He gets injured in week 2. They've lost 7 out of 8 games since without him. So even if they win out, it's a low chance of making the playoffs. Now, as for Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers still have not announced whether he'll start. Now, Rodgers had that broken wrist last week, but it is his non-throwing wrist, so he's been practicing with a brace around it. So I guess it'll probably be a game time decision tomorrow. So if you're on your fantasy football team, you'll have to You have to wait for that alert to show you whether to start him or not.
Yeah, and if they don't start, then they have backup quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, his backup's pretty good, actually. Mason Rudolph, I think he filled in admirably last week when Rodgers went out. I think he's won his last 3 starts going back to last year for the Steelers. So he's not a bad option, too, if you can't get Rodgers on your
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing that some of these backups are not too bad. You know, once they get going. I mean, sometimes in the beginning it's a little rough, and then they catch on. And
then they get comfortable.
Then they get comfortable.
It's tough. I would think it's very tough because you're not repping with the first team offense in practice. So for sure, it's going to take a little time.
Now, you know, we have another segment coming up that discusses health and visualization. And I noticed that you're in the segment. So I wanted to know how that worked out for you.
Yeah, you know, it was actually very relaxing. You'll see in part that we have we're kind of relaxing there. I think I nearly fell asleep actually doing this. It was that relaxing. So I really enjoyed this segment coming up for the health show.
All right, well, thank you so much for the sports update, and we're going to get to that segment now.
All right, thanks, Arlene.
All right. In today's fast-paced world, many people are struggling to maintain a healthy state of mind. Could a simple, accessible technique help ease everyday fears and anxieties? On this episode of Vital Signs, clinical psychologist Dr. Jessica Russo joins host Brendan Fallon to explain and demonstrate the power of visualization therapy for reducing stress.
I want to ask Dr. Russo if you have an example, before we get into the visualization exercise, if you have an example of someone, a patient perhaps, you could start to set the scene for who you've tried this approach with, what situation they were facing before.
Yeah, sure. There's a young woman in her mid-20s, and she had a rough childhood in many ways. She had a narcissistic mother who was abusive physically, mentally, and she also had some learning difficulties. And her mother's reaction to that just exacerbated her shame and self-consciousness around that. So she's working in a position right now where she has to do a lot of public speaking. She probably wouldn't have taken the job if she knew about this, but that's what the job requires right now. So we started doing this kind of visualization where she starts off in the safe place, and then there's a neutral space she goes to, and then she challenges her greatest fear, public speaking. And she has been able to generate a sense of confidence and a belief in herself that she never really had growing up. And she's been able to get through this. She's had maybe 5 public speaking engagements at this point, and she's really doing well.
That's incredible. I mean, public speaking is right up there with people's top fears.
Yes.
So that to come from struggling to that degree to being able to deliver in front of an audience, that's an incredible achievement.
Yes.
So I think without further ado, we can go ahead and start the visualization exercise. I know everyone's very excited to experience this. This is going to go for about 7 to 8 minutes. It's in 4 stages. If anyone feels at any point that they do not want to continue on to the next step, you do not have to do that. If you're watching on TV, if it feels too challenging, if you don't want to go forward to the next step, you can mute your volume. There will be a longer extended version of this made available for people if they want to approach this with a serious problem that they're facing. For this one, we suggest to use it as a kind of test run, perhaps pick something light, something not traumatic to see how this works for you. It could be there's the stress of walking through the streets of Manhattan, or what someone said at work that was a little annoying, something light like that. And just see this as a practice run. If there's anything you want to add, Dr. Russo, please do. Otherwise, I think we could start.
Okay, yeah, let's start. So I'm going to stand up just so I can see everyone. So what I want you to do is I want you to first focus on your breath. Everybody teaches it a little bit differently, so I'm going to show you how I teach it. So I'm going to ask that you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, like you're blowing out a candle, or you can breathe out through your nose. 3 to 5 seconds on the inhale, 5 to 7 seconds on the exhale. You can put one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. And you want to make sure that your abdomen first comes out like a balloon, right? So this is a deep breath you're using the lower part of your lungs. And it can come into your chest. It should be a full breath, but you want it to start in your belly. Okay. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to create a scene that's very, very peaceful. A scene in nature. It could be on the beach. It could be on a grassy hill. And you want to picture this place viscerally. So you want to bring in your 4 senses. We actually have 5 senses, but taste often isn't applicable. You want to picture everything vividly, and as you do that, you want to breathe each thing you notice in. So first noticing what you see, and then noticing what you hear. Noticing any smells in the air, breathing that in. And you want to notice what it feels like to the touch. So this isn't literally noticing what your hands might be on, your feet on the ground, but it also includes noticing the temperature in the air. Maybe you feel the sun on your face, warming your body. Breathing in all of this. Feel that in this space, you are completely relaxed. No responsibilities, know where you have to be, nothing you have to worry about. And you feel a real connection in this space. You feel connected to the life around you. And there's a comfort in that, and breathe into that.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
Coming up, in Kansas City, nonprofits and local businesses are working to provide a Thanksgiving turkey to families in need. We have more on the community and its spirit of giving after the break. In Kansas City, nonprofits and local businesses are working to provide a Thanksgiving turkey to families in need. This holiday season, the community and its spirit of giving are helping put food on the table. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on their efforts.
The Kansas City chapter of Slow Food USA is stepping up for Thanksgiving. Founder Jasper Mirabelle Jr. was happy to make a donation to buy turkeys for locals in need.
So we donated $5,000 and Max secured 300 turkeys for those who are going to need it, who are going to have a turkey on their plate this Thanksgiving. Doesn't get any better. Makes you feel good.
The donation went to Canby's Markets, which purchased the turkeys from a Kansas City-based grocer that was willing to help out. Canby founder Maxfield Kaniger said the establishment was quick to join the effort.
He was able to get us 300 turkeys without breaking a sweat, and I loved his response was actually, how many do you need? And I said, how many can I get? And he's like, however many you need, I will make work. And that's the kind of response you love to see.
Kaniger says his organization has been distributing tons of food, literally. Being able to provide Thanksgiving birds has made the effort even more rewarding.
We've been averaging about 10,000 pounds of food a day going out to different local organizations. And to be able to add these turkeys into the mix really is wonderful.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A trip through New York City's crowded subway system usually offers a pungent mix of odors. But along one platform inside Grand Central Terminal this holiday season, the air might smell of vanilla and fresh pine. Bath & Body Works is using a new advertising campaign to share a scent. The fragrance is being released on the 42nd Street shuttle train platform through November. It estimates that 20 to 30 pounds of fragrance will be dispersed by the end of the month when the campaign ends. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority said this is the first ad campaign like this in the transit system. They hope it will help bring in more revenue. Bath & Body Works Chief Marketing Officer said the company chose fresh balsam for the campaign. It's one of the brand's most iconic holiday scents and a long-running seasonal favorite. And that's all for the news tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Arlene Richards. Good night.